Good morning, Bob Wittig from Business Intelligence 101. We are now ready to begin the webinar. I'd like to welcome you all to the proven success for your NetSuite ERP investment. We're very excited to have so many people registered for today's webinar. Please place any questions that you have along the way in the chat panel to the presenters, and we'll try to answer as many questions as we can at the end. We have a great presentation in store for you today, and thanks again for joining us. A reminder to everyone that you are on mute and that the Q&A is open for everyone to ask questions throughout the presentation. We will be selecting a few questions from the question box to answer at the end of the presentation. Be sure to enter your questions in the box, the chat box at the bottom left-hand side, and we will answer as many as we can. And once again, you are on mute. So let's begin. We're going to discuss change and how implementing an ERP system can have a major impact on your business. I've had the pleasure of working with some major application software providers besides NetSuite during my 20-plus years in the ERP world, and I have been part of many ERP implementations. This type of change can be quite disruptive to many businesses, and often the end state, the goal that you need to reach, sometimes gets mixed reviews when the implementation is completed because of the varying expectations that are held by the different project stakeholders. The ModelWorks method that we're going to be discussing ensures a smooth transition from your current solution to NetSuite, the most modern and robust cloud-based ERP system available in the market today. The ModelWorks method helps you to effectively manage the change process and will provide a clear path to successful transformation to the cloud. We eliminate the pain of computer infrastructure and enable the gain of efficiency, mobility, and innovation. By leveraging cloud technology, we provide implementation, training, and managed services in support of NetSuite, Microsoft Office, and Google Apps. This will lessen the impact of any new process adoption and bridge the gap in record time. ModelWorks, this model works equally well in both small and large projects as it scales up extremely well. Quick background on Business Intelligence 101. Our company was founded in 2004. We're based in Livermore, California, in the Bay Area, close to Silicon Valley and San Francisco. We specialize in working with software providers and professional service companies. And we have a scientifically proven method of ModelWorks to implement SaaS solutions. At this point in the presentation, I'm going to turn control over to Kevin Lalor, our CEO and founder of Business Intelligence 101. And Kevin will give you the lowdown on the ModelWorks process. Kevin, you will have control.
This slide represents the quality of systems and processes within an organization. And over time, if you're not continuously improving your systems and processes, you're actually falling behind because the competition isn't staying still. So companies find that they constantly need to reinvent themselves, constantly need to improve their processes and techniques and systems. And with an ERP implementation, things go on long enough, and that the determination is made that a system change is required, and that generates change. So the next slide I have here talks about what really happens when change takes place. This is the how good it is graph. So again, but the fact is, as you head down an implementation process, things actually tend to drop off, and performance actually gets worse initially. And the primary reason because of that is because you don't have a whole team of project managers sitting at the ready to take on a new project. What's happening is we're typically taxing an already taxed organization, people that already have day jobs, and now we're throwing this significant project on top of them. And so they're adapting to the old, trying to manage the old way and the new way at the same time. And typically, implementations, the quality of things actually go down. And this can be quite dangerous. I call it the valley of death. And as you head down this path, and if every time you take another step further, things get worse and worse and worse, people get afraid. You run the risk of them abandoning, right? We should have gone back because at least up here is better than we are down here, right? And you get the naysayers, and it's a very risky time. What makes it even more risky is if the end result, where we're trying to head in the upper right-hand corner, isn't clearly understood, the end state. Here we are today, this is where we're trying to head. And if we don't have this clear vision of where we're going, then as far as the team is concerned, they see where this is going, and it's going in a bad direction. So the hope is that we can push through the change, push through the turmoil until you're actually able to reach a better place. And then the better place, the end state, becomes a point of discussion, because as you head into a project, what you'll find in most implementations that everybody's vision of that end state can be quite different. Right? Different people, they saw the demonstration, they have their vision of how they think things are going to operate. And when you end up at this end state, what's the chances that everybody's vision is the same and everybody's needs are met and they're just as they expect it to be? That's generally not the case. And those who had super high expectations, which is generally a lot of people, especially the way that ERP systems are sold, for the most part, when you survey companies, this is no, the end state did not match my expectations, and I'm not getting the benefits that I expected. Well, maybe somebody who was down here and had very low expectations, they could be pleased, but that's generally not the case. So what ends up happening is when we are through the project and without that clear end state defined, people aren't necessarily happy with where they are and expected more. So really, in order to make change successful, there's two things that I found needs to be defined. One is that shared vision of the end state, the results. Everybody on the same page and know what it's going to look like. And the second step is a process to move to this end state. And that's what we're going to be talking about here today. And the process that we take at Business Intelligence 101, the ModelWorks process, is an iterative approach. So all too often, companies implement ERP systems. They have discussions. Very smart people make determinations on how things are going to work. They begin configuring the system. They go back. A lot of the focus is on data conversion, data mapping, and there's a tremendous amount of work that's going on. And as we come up to approach the go-live date, they bring the solution out of the oven. They present it to the users. They start training, which is often just product training, where people are asked to go watch, videos and self-paced how to use the product. And then when we go live, we really find out what the issues are. And where we take an iterative approach, the idea is to identify those issues up front. So the approach that we take is we try to quickly put together a prototype, a simulation, where we know that we're only going to get the solution 50% right the first time. And that's great because we've got 50% of the issues things working, but the other side is we've got a big list over here on the right-hand side of issues and problems that need to be resolved before we can actually deploy the system. But you know that's the greatest time to identify that is before you're actually impacting your live environment. So the next process, what we do is we'll kind of try to work through those issues, and maybe some of them get assigned out and determinations is made that says, can we make a business process change? Is this really a customization that needs to be done to the software? Is it a configuration? Is it a little bit of both? Is there some training? And let's go back and iterate again. Let's come through and see how we are. Well, we're a little closer. You know, maybe we fixed a few issues. Maybe we broke a few of them along the way. But we're like, you know, maybe we got 75% of the main concepts addressed. Okay. But again, we go through this process. We take those outstanding issues. Hopefully that list is a little shorter. And we work through those. We come back a week later, and we run through the simulation process again. And we're getting closer and closer to wiping out all those issues so that we can have a clear buy-in, a clear vision of what that end state looks like before we're actually in a go-live type of environment. Right? So what does that look like? I've got a slide here which kind of shows this process in action. And what you see here is you see people around the table all interacting with the system. Okay? And you see that in the background we've got a list of the issues are being worked through, and we're actually doing some simulation. You see maybe some of the cups to the side. I think there's some process here where we're actually simulating the company running on the system. You know, this could be a manufacturing system, a warehouse model where we're actually moving inventory back and forth, and you see we're actually interacting with the system real life here with the two gentlemen up front. So the idea is this is a role-based model. So the gentleman in green here could be representing sales. He could be talking to the operations team, which is the gentleman in the checkered shirt. The woman in the green could be the production facilities. We could have accounting in the back. We have shipping. Basically, we're modeling this environment. We're simulating these processes using the real system, mimicking what's going on, and then capturing the issues. So you see along the back wall, we have, the walls are covered with, flip chart paper, and we're capturing the issues that we're discovering real time through the process. Okay, and this really comes from the idea of how do people learn, right? Because if you look back when you learned a new technique, or how to ride a bike, or how to hit a baseball, right? You didn't, you didn't read a book about how to do this. You got out there and you got involved in the situation. You've heard the theme that says we remember only so much of what we hear, maybe a little more of what we see, but if we can actually participate, become involved, witness, and engage, we're going to do a much better job of comprehending and appreciating the situation. And this is this collaborative environment that we're talking about, which is Modelworks. Okay, and this next slide is a depiction of the Modelworks funnel. And this is kind of our methodology in a graphical format here. And the key point to note is you'll see as this funnel starts narrowing, what we're really talking about is the scope. When you start off a project, there's a lot that could be on the table. There's a lot of opportunity, and as you work through the process, what you actually go live with, what you actually cut over, maybe is a subset of the original scope of what's being discussed. So Modelworks is a process. It's a methodology. It's a change management process. It's a process by which everybody gets on the same page to make sure that we're going to define that end state. I'm going to go through this in a little bit more detail on each one of the components. Okay. The other thing to be aware is as the process moves forward, the actual stakeholders change. Now, initially, when you're doing the discovery, the initial review process, there's typically just a core team of vision owners that's involved here. And they're the folks that are involved in the situation that you saw in the past, the modeling concept. And once we really have defined what it is, the scope, and how the process is going to work, and all the key concepts are worked through, then we're actually now bringing in the key users and ultimately the broader user community. And they're now engaging and learning and participating using the actual model that we've developed. So instead of going off and learning how a product works in product training, they're actually now learning how they're going to do the job, their particular job, and their role moving forward. Okay? And then we come back at the very bottom, and we take the vision makers and we circle back through that process. But really the key is scope is quite broad at the beginning, and the involvement of the company is fairly small. Towards the end, scope is tight, and the involvement is quite high, and the user involvement is quite high. All right, so the concept here is you saw the hockey stick graph that we saw before. The idea is if we can clearly define that end state ahead of time and have that iterative process, then go live is just a natural culmination of the events that we prepared for in the past. And that dip, while it still exists, is quite low, it's quite minor, and we're able to push through the process and start achieving those benefits quicker. Better yet is if we can take this project and break it down into smaller and smaller phases. We have a bunch of little blips over here, and then we can break the project down into multiple areas, start achieving value quicker, and getting overall more value to the company. And that's the value of breaking these projects down into smaller components. But the idea is less pain, quicker time to gain. So I'm going to kind of go through some of the key components to the Modelworks funnel, which really starts with the initial review. And that is the initial discovery process that could otherwise be referred to. But that's where the key project architect from our team comes in there and just reviews the current situation. Look at the opportunities that exist, and what are the biggest challenges that are preventing us from achieving those opportunities. So there's a lot of discovery process that goes on here, but the key component from this is what we call the concept model design, and that's where we define what it is that we're going to move forward and actually move into that prototype process. But every step of the way, there's a go, no-go decision. You know, we could review the situation, the opportunities, and define and determine, well, this doesn't make sense to move forward with an ERP system here because it looks like you've got, other problems and concerns that are more immediate, and the decision is made to, at that point in time, to go in another direction. If we decide that the go is a decision to go forward, the next phase is the actual concept model, and that's where we actually simulate the end state. Okay, and that process is done with really a subset of the data, subset of the information. So we would maybe take 2 or 3 different example customers and load those up into the system into an actual sandbox prototype environment. We'd simulate a few different items, map out a few different scenarios that really represent the different types of challenges that we're going to address. Okay. So this is the iterative process. This is the dynamic. This is very fun. This is where the team members come together and we simulate the process, and we really work through the major issues, get the buy-off on the concept. And at the end of the concept model, that's when we know 100% there's nothing that's going to hold us back. All the concepts have been proven out and have been worked through, and now we're ready to move forward. The next level is where you really now start talking about the tools. And our position here is it's really not until you get to this point where I think it's fair to ask a client, a customer, to make that capital investment in actually licensing and acquiring the software. Because until then, we're really still trying to prove out the concept. And if we've made a hardcore purchase decision based on a early on demo kind of a thing, you're at risk. So that's where we'll tell our clients, let's go through that process. So let's actually engage in the concept model, prove this thing out before we know that it makes sense to actually make some significant capital investment. But that's where the tool comes in. That's where we license the NetSuite application. We define our functional specifications for any kind of enhancement that needs to take place. We engage in any of the custom programming, and we constantly are going back and validating those customizations against the original model that we put together. Okay, so that's really the significant buy time. Okay. So now at this point we have identified the key opportunities. We validated how they're going to work in the concept. We've gotten buy-off. We've made our capital investment in the ERP system. We're able to work through our ROI at this point in time because we understand the benefits. Now we're moving into more of the implementation phase, and this is the implementation model. And now we're actually going to start flushing out that model. We're going to be moving into the data migration phase. We're actually going to be continuing to use the model in our simulation process, but we're going to have real data, real customer information, your bill of materials are in place, your item masters in place. And what we're doing here is we're developing the procedures that our different end users are going to use when they go live. So they would potentially be touching multiple different parts of the system and things that aren't even part of the system, but we're developing a set of procedures so that when we leave, we have an AP clerk, we have an operations person, and a set of procedures written up for them and how they're going to work with the system. The same as we're using the implementation model to actually build our training material, how we're going to bring in the end users and show them how the system's going to work using the system, using these implementation models. Okay. Final system tests are made at this point in time. Oh, here's a little slide about the procedures. You can see on the right-hand side, you see the kind of the flow charts that we put together, and the idea is we're providing you with a binder that has all the detailed procedures based on the job functions. Okay, then becomes the train and implement. So we bring in the end users, we've done the final test, and we actually then cut over using the live data, and there's a last reflushing out of the database, and we're ready to go live. And at this point in time, it really is a natural progression. It just becomes another one of these runs, and that's what we call them. We call them concept model runs, implementation model runs, and then the go live run, and it really becomes just a natural step and just another run. It's just this time we're using our live data. Okay, so yeah, maybe there's still a dip. There's still people that are getting used to it a little bit, but it's something that we're able to push through fairly quickly. Okay, the last step in the process is what we call the post-implementation review. This typically takes place maybe 2 or 3 months after the go live, once things have settled down, and it's basically another version of the initial review. We come back and we look at were the initial opportunities that we identified, were we able to address those? Were we able to work through all the issues? Are we receiving the benefit of what we anticipated at the beginning? And if not, what are some of the tweaks that we need to do? Or if so, maybe we're ready to move to the next phase and we start that next little hockey stick process improvement. Right? That's the post-implementation review. All right, so why does it work? Right? So the key things is defining that end state up front, and it's the process by which that we can justify, prove out, and get to that end state. The other thing is that over time that you, the client, is taking more ownership in this situation, right? So time goes on, and our role becomes less and less, and the client teams and the end users become a bigger aspect. You have the ownership. When you go live, our role is fairly small in the scheme of things. Next, I want to talk about what ends up being the biggest challenge to the implementations. Even defining that end state and going through that process has to do with people. For the most of the times when I've looked back at all the implementation I've been involved with, the issues and why things weren't successful weren't necessarily technical. They weren't that the software just couldn't do what they needed to do, or it really has to do with people. And so we spent a fair amount of time working with the team and working through this issue, because this is what we see. There's the change agents, there's the followers, and there's those who just won't change. And there has to be a way to deal with those. You have to move them off the project and maybe out of the company, because there are people that just can't handle change, and these projects bring out and puts a spotlight on those individuals. So talk a little about some of the things that we do to help work through this process. And it's talked about team development. We use a technique. It's called Colby. I think people are familiar with these types of tests. They're similar to what's the Briggs-Myers. There's a number of them out there. But we found the Colby to be fairly informative. What it does is it takes the natural mode and breaks down individuals into 4 different categories. There's those of us who are the fact finders. They really like to get their arms around everything, get all the details defined before they engage and feel comfortable moving forward. There's the follow-through types. Those are the people that really like to document, and they want to have procedures all laid down. And it says, whatever they'll be more agree to different concepts as long as it's clearly defined and understood. Right? The third area in green, and this is where I fall into, is the quick starts. And they're the people that have just said, let's go, let's dive into it, and we'll figure it out after the fact. Right? Don't bother me with details. You're slowing this down. Let's move forward. And then there's the implementers. They're very hands-on type of people. They like to build. They like to model. They like to construct. And all of us have a little bit of this in us. Those who have the bigger components, you see the 9s or the 7s, the 8s. This is how we initiate. We like to initiate in this. And if we're very short, like a 2 in Quick Start, we're going to be resistant. So it's not uncommon that the fact finders are resistant to the quick starts, and the quick starts are maybe resistant to the follow-throughs. But if we need to have representatives from all of those different action modes to make up a good team. So before we kick off a team, we'll have everybody on the team take these kinds of tests, and we're really looking for a mix. I'll move to the next slide, because if it was a whole team of Johns or a whole team of Duncans, we'd have issues. So what this kind of does is it breaks the team into places and says, what's the mix of these And if we had a whole team of fact finders and follow-throughs, we run the risk of just doing this analysis paralysis, and we're never able to move forward. And we see a lot of that in business. So sometimes we'll really ask for a broader audience, or we'll look for some quick starts of some implementers to be added to the project, because you're really looking for a synergy. You want to kind of see this 25, 50, 25 split where the fact finders will be offset by the quick starts, and you really have a team that can work together. The other value that we found is kind of secondary, because sometimes these processes generate some heated discussions, let's say, and it can get personal at times. And instead, what the Kolbe test does is it allows us to eliminate the personal feelings and allows us to talk to the nature of the individual. So the quick start could say to the fact finder, instead of saying, John, you're driving me crazy, it could be more like, John, your fact finder mode is really coming through here. Let's talk about whether we're doing too much of this, and let's see if we can deal with your red line here. Because I wouldn't get offended being told that I'm a quick start and my green line is showing, but I would maybe take offense to somebody who says, Kevin, you're always doing this, you're driving me crazy, right? And it kind of allows us a vehicle for the teams to work together, realize the nature, the standard instincts of the individual team members, and we're able to really put together a synergetic team to move forward. Okay? So in summary, the overall advantages of the ModelWorks process that we've seen ensures that we define that end state, a process by which that we can get buy-in, right? Because people don't wake up every morning and says, I want to change, right? But if they can get see where they're going, get that buy-in, we can end up with a much more successful implementation. This becomes very critical when it's a change that involves multiple departments. Right? People that typically maybe aren't used to working together every day, if in this modeling process, they can actually see how the things that they do affect others down the line. It really makes it synergistic, so they can see the 360 impact of everybody's changes on each other. Okay, really reducing the overall effort to implement the change, and because we're able to identify those issues up front instead of in a tumultuous go-live type of environment. Right? So that's the end of what I've prepared here today. I'm happy to discuss further, but I think at this point I'm going to turn it over to Bob, and I apologize for my phone being muted there at the beginning. I think here I changed presenter to Bob Wittick. There you go, Bob.
Kevin? Thank you, Kevin. That was a great presentation. We certainly appreciate the way that you were able to walk us through a very compact presentation. What we'd like to offer as a next step is anyone that's attending or anyone that was not able to join us today, we would invite you to sign up for a ModelWorks initial review. This is the first step in providing our services for the ModelWorks concept offering. And actually, if you did attend today, we would like to give you a free executive briefing, which is really an introduction to the initial review and kind of sets the stage for what we would need, the type of information that we would need to gather, and really elaborates on the entire ModelWorks process. So in any case, the executive briefing would be with a senior executive from Business Intelligence 101 and a senior member from your team, and we can schedule that at your convenience, and it would probably take 1 to 2 hours. I'd like to review a couple of questions that came in during the presentation, and since we have plenty of time remaining, the first one is from Andrew. Andrew is asking, we are moving from Sage to NetSuite. We have slotted 6 months for the full business transition. Is this time frame manageable? Can we shorten it to 4 months? Andrew, in our experience, we'd have to say that generally speaking, the limiting factor is not the software provider or our consultants. We have those resources. We can certainly be available, and I think if the company, your company, had unlimited people that they could put on an entirely new project and dedicate themselves just to doing nothing but implementing the NetSuite, we would probably be able to do this in a matter of weeks rather than months, but that's rarely the case. So I would have to say the more engaged your team can be, the quicker the process would go. The next question is from Teresa. Teresa says, our software company is deciding between Epicor and NetSuite. Do you have any vertical cases or data sheets to help us compare? Yes, we do. Our own specialty practice with NetSuite really is targeted to other software companies and professional service organizations. We are expert in many areas with regards to subscription billing, recurring revenue, revenue recognition schedules, and the impact that these have on your financial statements. So that's an area that Business Intelligence 101 has a great deal of experience. It's also an area that NetSuite is particularly strong in, and there are white papers and case studies that we can send to you. It may also be interesting to have you speak with one of our existing software clients that has practical experience with both NetSuite as well as the ModelWorks process. Our last question is from Jennifer. Jennifer says, our CFO is in charge of the ERP migration, but NetSuite really impacts the entire business. How can we get the CEO more involved in the process to ensure success? Always a challenge. Many times the decision gets made and people kind of sit back and breathe a sigh of relief and go on about their other tasks and leave the heavy lifting to the CFO, the financial team, maybe the IT portion of the business. In our experience, this is really an element that is well addressed by the ModelWorks process. The ModelWorks process engages all levels of management in the discovery and in the modeling of the operations and processes of your company, and ensures their buy-in and support for any issues, any process change that needs to be adopted as it's identified during the early stages of the project. And once we have their commitment and we have their approval for the issues and the impact, we have a roadmap to success, and we have the proper buy-in from all levels of management in an organization.
Hey, Bob, it looks like there's a couple other questions in the chat box have come in.
Okay.
Yeah, there's. I'll just take it from here. The next question that I see that came in is from Steve, and he asks, "Is Modelworks a scientific methodology that BI 101 uses, or is it a software application, or both?"
Well, I'll
Kevin,
take
would you
that.
like to take that? Great.
Sure, I'll take that. I don't know about a scientific methodology, but it surely is an implementation methodology, or I like to think of Modelworks really as just a change management process. It's not a piece of software. We do have tools, techniques that we've developed, but it's not software in itself. Really, the Modelworks methodology change management process can be used with any kind of a software, any kind of implementation, not necessarily unique to NetSuite. It's really a change management process. A way to define that end state and a way to get there. Hope that answers the question, Steve.
I think that's all of the questions that we've received thus far in the chat pane. If you have any further questions about today's event or something that you heard, we would love to keep in touch. Best place to reach us is the email that you saw on the screen earlier. That's netsuitewebinar@bi101.com. And with that, we just want to thank everyone and conclude today's webinar. Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
That concludes today's webinar. We appreciate your attendance once again, and look forward to a great day in the Bay Area.